Hello, and welcome. My name is Patrick Toby with Equanimity Counseling and Consulting. In this session, we're going to be focusing on helping generalized anxiety. For right now, just get comfortable, take a nice deep breath, hold it for a moment, and relax on the exhale. Make sure you're in a comfortable position where you won't be disturbed, preferably with headphones or earbuds to block out distracting outside noises and to be able to focus on the words of this session. Go ahead and take another nice deep breath and hold it and exhale, allowing yourself to settle even further. Very good. Breathe in again. Hold it for a moment. And breathe out and allow yourself to sink into a pleasant relaxation as I discuss some key points about generalized anxiety and how we can make changes to our thinking styles. Continue to breathe naturally at your own relaxed pace, allowing yourself to drift deeper with every exhale as you listen to my words or the spaces between my words. Generalized anxiety often comes from a response to the unknown. The unknown can be scary. Many people don't like to feel uncertain. In general, we don't like uncertainty. We don't like ambiguity. We want to feel like we know what is going to happen. We like the feeling of predictability and certainty. The not knowing creates discomfort, and in order to avoid that discomfort, we often create stories about the things that we don't know, like our future, what other people are thinking, what other people are thinking about us. We fill in those blanks. You see, our mind doesn't like to have those blank spots, those unknowns, so it will automatically fill it in with guesses and made-up stories. Our mind also has a tendency to have a negative bias, which has served us well in our evolution. We have learned it is more important to pay attention to the snake or the spider than it is to the flower or the sunset, only because the snake and the spider could harm us. This has become our automatic response to the unknown. Better to make up something scary than pleasant. But our automatic response has now come full circle and is often causing us more harm than good. Our mind naturally focuses on negative things, but this also creates a lot of problems for us, especially in the modern world. When we don't know something, we project our reasons and our likely stories onto those blank spaces. And often those stories are filled with negativity, fear, worst-case scenarios, and disturbing imagery. And then we react to those negative stories and to those disturbing images with worry, fear, and stress. We get anxiety about unknown situations and the things that we can't control because we assume the worst. We project the worst into the future, and then we react to those projections like they're already real. And we start to spin up with anxiety, fear, and maybe even panic. Wouldn't it be nice to project what we want into our future instead of what we don't want? This session is about how to reverse that negative tendency, and part of doing that is to become comfortable with ambiguity, becoming more and more comfortable with being uncertain. We don't always need to know because there are things that we just can't know, and it's okay. In fact, it is a skill to know what we do know and what we don't know. It becomes so automatic to fill in the gaps with stories and guesses that we don't even realize that we're making things up. We often don't realize we are filling the blank canvas of our lives with disturbing pictures and expectations. But now, you are going to become much more aware of that automatic tendency. And with awareness comes change. So being able to spot when you know things for sure, based on evidence or observation, and other times when you really don't know and you're just filling in blanks, is a very important skill, and it's our primary therapeutic focus for this session. It is our ability to learn how to recognize ambiguity in situations and be on guard against one's own tendency to interpret such events in some habitual and possibly hurtful way that is not objectively true. And secondly, develop a tolerance for ambiguity that permits comfort with not knowing. Not knowing what's right or what's true in a given context can either be empowering or victimizing, depending on one's perspective. Not knowing can be empowering to spur us to finding out, to spur us forward with curiosity and excitement. It allows for opportunities and the ability to influence situations that are not yet certain or set. There's a lot of benefit from understanding what we can and cannot control, so that we focus our energies on those things that we can control, instead of wasting our time and energy on the things that we cannot control. So for now, allow yourself to settle in even further. Take another nice deep breath. Hold it for a moment. Notice any tension, and then release your breath and let go of the tension. Take another nice deep breath. Hold it for a moment. And as you exhale, imagine letting your worries float away like a bunch of balloons. There's nothing you need to do right now. There's nowhere you need to go. This is time you've dedicated to yourself. So relax and enjoy it. Continue to breathe in a slow, relaxed pace as I count down from 10 to 1. With each number, you can notice yourself sinking deeper into a very relaxed state, both mentally and physically. So taking a breath with 10 and going down to 9. Feeling your body 8. Relaxing further down to 7. Breathing in to 6. And out to 4. And 3. Feel yourself sinking deeper into 2. Almost there with 1. Allow yourself to sink deeper into a more relaxed state. The deeper you go, the better you'll feel. I want you to have an experience that is worthy of your time today, worthy of your attention. An experience that allows you to discover something of value about yourself, about life, and about something that is meaningful for you. Of course, here at the beginning, there is really no way for you to know just what I am going to be suggesting, or what possibilities I am going to encourage. But then, can anyone really tell you what might happen in the coming few moments, much less the coming days or weeks? Our future is unknown to us in the present. We can make reasonable guesses, and we can even set out detailed plans. But in the end, those only reflect our hopes and fears rather than any objective reality. Right now, if someone were monitoring your brain as you grow more relaxed and peaceful, they might correctly point out how one part of your brain becomes more active, while another part becomes less active. But what does that mean? Even knowing what your brain is doing doesn't tell anyone about what you are actually experiencing on the inside. And in that respect, it's such a privilege to be the only person anywhere who knows what it feels like to be you. To be you when you're breathing comfortably and relaxing more deeply, noticing how your body feels as you go into a deeper state of relaxation. It is through our very subjective experience, past and present, that we see the world today and imagine our tomorrow. For instance, if someone is a pessimist, they might see all the problems and difficulties that could arise and discover that it is very difficult to feel good feelings about a future filled with problems and difficulties. If you're an optimist, you might see all the potential benefits and joys that are awaiting you. You recognize there might also be challenges as well, but as an optimist, you believe in your ability to meet those challenges successfully. What lens do you use to see the world, and what effect does that lens have on your general state of being? Do your usual ways of viewing, expressing, and experiencing yourself allow you to experience happiness, peace, joy, or love? You know and I know there are things about ourselves we don't know, and the things we do know we don't always understand. There's a little bit of uncertainty to life, and that little bit of mystery is something each of us must build a relationship with. It's a curious thing how you come to know what you don't know. Times you discover that what you thought you knew turned out to be incorrect. And likewise, how you come to know and come to terms with knowing that there are some things you will never know. Now, it's a curious thing that we spend so much of our lives striving to know, desperately at times striving to know. And for some people, it turns into a mission to try to know the unknowable. The people who want to know whether you can weigh a human soul, or the people who want to know whether you can measure how much love you have for your family. Wanting to know is a powerful driving force that helps us better understand the world around us, and the people in it too, including ourselves. But as you may discover, there's also a value in not knowing. There are lots of examples that I can give you where it's a great advantage to realize you don't know, that the situation is not completely settled yet. And there's an even greater advantage to know that you're not going to know, while remaining comfortable and at peace with that not knowing. With knowing that it will be okay. Feeling as comfortable as you feel right now, not knowing how this session will go, or what suggestions I might introduce. You might even notice an increase in curiosity, and perhaps even excitement, to know what you don't know. The unknown is filled with possibility and potential. It might well begin to occur to you that what a great skill it is to be equally comfortable not knowing as knowing. It is exciting to think which word or phrase or concept will be the one that will help transform aspects of your life. You don't know which ideas I'm going to offer you that will prove to be enlightening for you. What a pleasure it is not to know and to have a sense of curiosity and willingness to explore and discover new things. It may even be surprising how quickly you can become comfortable with not knowing. It allows you a universe of possibilities to explore new viewpoints and opportunities. Like a child discovering the world, everything is new and unknown and full of potential and possibilities. That child, filled with wonder and joy at the prospect of discovering new things, is still inside you. Seek out new explanations for things you think you already understand. Allow for other viewpoints. There might be something that you can think of now that you don't currently know the answer to. Perhaps a question that you can openly acknowledge to yourself that you don't know the answer to. And you may not ever know the answer to questions that may be by their very nature unknowable. You can be really glad that you can find a measure of peace and acceptance in that there is no answer, and that it's okay, because it allows for potential and possibilities beyond our understanding. There is an old parable that illustrates the principle that we really don't know how things will play out from the narrow perspective of the present moment. We don't always know the big picture. A good event might turn out to be difficult in the end, and a bad event might turn out to be a blessing in disguise. We just don't know, and that's okay. I'm going to tell you a little story, and I want you to notice how well the wise old farmer handles the unknowable. This is an old parable that illustrates the principles that we really don't know how things will play out, and what is a good event and what is a bad event, because we can't see the bigger scope that surrounds the moment-to-moment interpretation of anything that happens to us. The story begins with an old farmer who went out to tend his animals and crops. At first light, the farmer was dismayed to see his fence had been crushed by a falling tree during the night. All three of the farmer's prized horses had disappeared. The other villagers moaned in sympathy. "Whatever will you do?" they asked the farmer. "This is terrible," they all cried, shaking their heads sadly. "And right before harvest time, too. Your harvest will rot in the field. What will your family eat this winter? How will you get your crop in with those horses?" One of the villagers asked the old farmer. "I don't know. We'll see," was the farmer's only reply, and he returned to his chores. Later that morning, the farmer heard the sound of hooves and, looking up, saw his 3 horses had returned. What was more, the 3 horses had 2 wild horses running with them. Soon the villagers were heard to express their delight at the farmer's good fortune. "What a wonderful thing to have happened," the other villagers cried. "What a wealthy man you will be with this new stock of animals." "I don't know. We'll see," was the only response the farmer would reply. After lunch that day, the farmer's son was trying to break one of the wild horses in for saddle. Suddenly the wild horse bucked and threw the son to the ground. Running to his injured son, the farmer found his son's leg was badly broken. The neighbors were soon around to give their opinions about what a terrible calamity it was. The villagers said, "What a disaster. Now you really won't be able to get your crop in without your strong son to help you. He will take months to heal. Whatever will you do?" The farmer would only shrug and say, "I don't know. We'll see." Later that afternoon, military officials rode through the tiny village with great clattering of weapons and jostling of horses, looking grim and serious. The soldiers announced an official conscription. Every able-bodied young man was to be drafted into service that very day. The farmer's son, having just been injured, was left behind, even as other sons and husbands were taken. No one in the village could believe the old farmer's good fortune. "Surely the most tremendous good fortune has smiled upon you today." The wise old farmer only replied, "I don't know. We'll see." Now you know, and I know, uncertainty is inevitable in many areas of life. Isn't it interesting the range of reactions that people have? The people who strive to avoid uncertainty because it scares them when they fill their uncertainty with fear. While other people embrace uncertainty, absorbed in the curiosity of wondering what will happen, without any dread that comes from anticipating the worst. Uncertainty is an invitation for greater structure. The structured information gathering you can do to answer a question if it's an answerable question, or the structured acceptance of what can't be answered, at least not right now. Think of a question right now, maybe a question that has nagged you for years or just a thought that occurred to you in this very moment. Now you get to practice by asking yourself this very fundamental question. Is this an answerable question? Is there any amount of research that can answer that question? If the question is answerable, you have a direction to proceed to find out more. And if you discover the question is unanswerable, then you may choose to focus your energy on alternatives or options. It is valuable feedback when you discover there is a question that can't be answered, because you invest your energy in more productive directions. There are also big questions that we know on some level can never be adequately answered. Why do bad things happen? When will bad things happen in the future? What is the cause of bad things happening? People often make up explanations to such unanswerable questions. Too many people are happy to have explanations for things that can't be explained with actual facts, just so they can have an explanation, even if it's wrong. Consider a simple example. I'm sure you've had an experience of calling someone, getting their voicemail, and leaving a message. And when the person doesn't call back in a time frame that you think is reasonable, you might naturally wonder what it means, whether the person is simply busy, whether their voicemail is working properly. It is tempting to allow your mind to run away with all kinds of explanations. They don't want to talk to us. Maybe I did something wrong. Maybe they're angry with me. They don't want to be in our life anymore. We can make up more positive stories as well. They're on vacation. They never receive the message. Maybe they're just waiting for a better time to talk. In the end, we simply don't know, and whether we make up a story that makes us feel bad or a story that makes us feel good doesn't really matter because both are fiction, and we should be careful believing our own stories. After all, you don't want to react to something on the basis of a fictional story you just made up. All the speculations about why that person didn't call back are normal and reflect our desire to make sense out of things that don't seem to make much sense. Whether you want to understand something like why someone doesn't call back, or something much more complex like why bad things happen, it's one of human beings' greatest strengths that we strive to understand and make sense of the things that go on around us. And the fact that you can generate so many different explanations for why someone doesn't call back gives you an opportunity to realize you don't really know why they didn't call back. And it's okay not to know. You can make lots of guesses, but you really don't know for sure. And when you don't know how to explain something, it's perfectly all right to just say, I don't know. After all, no one really expects you to know why someone else doesn't return a phone call. It's a gift of honesty and clear thinking when you can say, I don't know, instead of making up an answer that might well be wrong or even hurtful to you or someone else before you reach a conclusion. Any conclusion. You can learn to ask yourself, how do I know that? And if your answer is, I just feel like it's true, or it's just what I think, then you can know that you are jumping to a conclusion with no supportive information. That doesn't necessarily mean you are wrong, but it certainly increases the chances of being wrong. There's another story of a monk who was passing through a town, a small village, in his travels. Along the path through the town, he was stopped by a local authority who asked the monk, "Where are you going?" And the monk shrugged and said, "I don't know." This did not set well with the authority figure, who asked the monk again, "Don't be coy with me, monk. Tell me where you are going." The monk again asserted, "I don't know." This started to infuriate the authority figure, who asked one last time, "Monk, you need to tell me where you are going." And the monk again said, "I don't know." "That's it," said the authority figure, and then grabbed the monk and threw him into a jail cell. And the monk looked at him from behind the bars and simply said, "You see, I didn't know." The monk was being honest. The correct and accurate answer was that the monk didn't know where he would end up that day. The monk might have had a destination where he was planning on going, but when it boiled down, he didn't really know how that day was going to play out. He didn't know where he was going to end up that night. So the correct answer for the monk was, I don't know. And the insightful monk saw this clearly and was able to convey that uncertainty to the authority figure, who only thought the monk was being difficult. There is a freedom in recognizing the things we do know, and there's also a freedom in recognizing the things that we do not know. We can learn to simply let them be. Let them be what we do not know. Let them unfold a little bit more so we can see them clearer. Or maybe we'll never know, and we just have to learn to be comfortable with that. And that's okay too. Each time throughout the day that you encounter this situation where the meaning isn't too clear, or better yet, when you catch yourself trying to figure out something that has happened, you can recognize there are many different ways to interpret that event, and many different ways to think about events that have yet to occur. This leaves your mind open to understanding the reality of the situation, whatever it may be. And you can become more and more proficient at recognizing the things that you don't know, the meaning of or the why behind them, at least not yet. And so your skill level grows in being able to recognize the uncertainty in many of life's situations, and grows in being able to comfortably accept the mysteries of life. Sometimes you don't know, and may not ever know why or what it means. You will discover that as your comfort in the uncertain grows, so does your trust in your ability to handle uncertainties of life with a sense of calm, confidence, and clarity about what you do and do not know before you react, allowing the world to be what it is and being okay with it. Now, out of all the things that I've talked about, I can't predict what will be enduring in your awareness, but you can certainly decide that for yourself as you begin to integrate the experiences of today into your daily life. Take whatever time you want or need to process your thoughts and feelings about today's session in order to absorb the deeper implications. And then when you've had enough time and you feel like you're ready to accept the unknown, you can start the process of gradually reorienting yourself at a rate that is comfortable and easy for you. Take your time, and when you're ready, you can let your eyes open, feeling fully alert, feeling refreshed, feeling excited about the future that you get to discover. You did wonderfully.